Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 125 of Brewing, the Podcast Adjunct series. Welcome to Miami, Florida, guys. We are out here for a month. This is the first pod that we're recording out here. We brought all of our crap. It was a lengthy drive down. We drove because of the pup. He's a little too big to fly, so we wanted to make the drive, which was really fun, very long. I don't know if I would recommend 3 days in a row of driving 8 to 9 hours and not much sleep. So we're going to split it up a bit more on the way back, but I'm hearing that back home there is a huge bunch of storms happening, so, pretty grateful to be in this 30-degree weather every day. I will not rub it in anymore for my Canadian folks. But before we get into this evening's podcast, guys, we, of course, are sponsored by the good folks at Manscaped. There we go. Make some noise for the guys. So, spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning. They've already helped you tidy up the nooks and crannies of your body's basement, but this year, Manscaped can help you get the perfect presentation on that beautiful face with the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. I shouldn't have put it so far away. God damn it. Where we at? Make sure you look your best this spring by using the code BAOS for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. So, first, obviously, Manscaped, we're rocking the nether regions, and now they're rocking the lines above the shoulders. So, it's time to tame your mane with the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. The sun is peeking back out, at least it is down here, which means you'll have to show your face in the daylight again. So, use the kit to make sure your scruff looks award-winning, whether you got glorious beard flow or some smooth, sleek cheeks. The kit starts off with the Beard Hedger, a waterproof cordless trimmer with a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all on one guard, so no more messy drawers full of add-ons. It also comes with titanium coated T-blades, which you can't really see through this, that are tough on hair but smooth on your face, leading to single stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. The Beard Hedger is a high-tech piece of art in a travel size package, which is this little thing here. With a long-lasting battery, universal charging, and a strong motor. Next, the kit has the liquid goods to make you feel good. Oops, I turned it on there. With the beard shampoo and conditioner, you can't treat your beard like you treat your pubes. I bet you didn't know that, mate. You don't want to do that. You got the shampoo, boom. That's why the kit has a special shampoo and conditioner, especially designed to moisturize and reduce ingrown hairs. And that is a conditioner in the little container here. And replenish your beard's natural oils and promote beard health. The Pro Kit also has Manscaped's beard oil. Boom, look at that. The nutrient-infused oil relieves dryness both on the beard and the skin beneath, while still adding a little shimmer and shine to liven up the look. Cap it off with the Beard Balm, a pomade that shapes, styles, and moisturizes, bringing the amazing scent of fresh eucalyptus, rosemary, and lavender essential oils. That is fire. Not to mention, the Beard Hedger Pro Kit also comes with 3 free gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. My favorite is the brush here. Always give it a little quick once-over during the pod. So, guys, save 20% and get free shipping with the code BAOS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code BAOS at manscaped.com. Focus on the face and use the Beard Hedger Pro Kit for the cleanest look in the game. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about non-alcoholic beer on the pod for a little while now. Probably the last couple of years. It's been like balance has been a big thing for us. We've expressed, Tiff and I did an episode just on, some of our fave non-alcoholic beers. It must have been January or February sometime. And, it's a recurring subject, and it's actually a big part of our lives. We drink non-alcoholic beers, probably 3-4 nights a week now. We're really big fans of it. So this evening, I have one of the newest non-alcoholic brands to me personally. I know they've been around for a bit, but someone that I've discovered this year. So I'm actually really excited to hear more about it, get the full story, and have a chat with the fellas. So guys, please welcome Steve and Rob from Harmon's Non-Alcoholic in the building. Gentlemen, welcome. It is great to finally hang out.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Genuine pleasure. So we have a fourth that got affected by the storm tonight. So shouts to Mike, who may just dial in at some point if the internet gods are good to him. and allow him
We hope.
to reconnect. But in the meantime,
Yeah,
we'll keep it posted.
he's praying that
He's
the internet gets going again. But
It's okay. It's no stress. At least we can get it all going. So, boys, I know this is something I'm like I was saying, pretty big fan of non-alcoholic beers. I've been drinking your stuff now for the last, it must have been like since probably February. Huge shouts to Craig from Craft Branco, who did the first drop for me, who spoke extraordinarily highly of the three of you guys and of the products, and for good reason. So I'm excited to really to get the story, because he told me a little bit, and we've all been kind of chatting, but we never really got into it. So I'm excited to hear about it. But first things first, we need a beer. So we are going to start with your Lunchbox Lagered Ale. Come on, there she is. Look at that, mate. Now this is a, I guess you would call it like a Kolsch style ale. There you go. Tell us about this one. Whatever you want to go into, whether it's the recipe, the name, the whole works. Oof.
We'll start on recipe to start. You're absolutely right. It's sort of a little tribute to those wonderful beers out of Germany, and we were just trying to make something super approachable and easy drinking as one of our sort of core three, and our lagered ale was our choice.
Okay.
Yeah, and the name Lunchbox, obviously, with this kind of beer, you can drink it anytime. So why not have it for lunch? So we thought it was cute to, throw in a lunchbox image and pack it in your lunch when you're off there.
That's a really good point.
So I actually bought some vintage lunchboxes. I was using it as a little promo item, and yeah, it's fun. But awesome. And it has a ring to it, and frankly, it's one of those great names that was not taken. So it's getting tough in the beer industry.
Oh yeah, I know. Like basically, like what's no idea is original anymore, right? And everything's done. So you got to get in while you can. So first of all, boys, pleasure to chat. Get it in you.
Cheers. I got it right facing the camera this time. Look at me.
There we go. You got it. Delicious. So this has got to be, I feel like non-alcoholic beer in general is not easy to make. But I would hazard, I can tell by that laugh that maybe I'm onto something there. I would hazard a guess that this particular style would probably be the most difficult, because there's nothing to hide anything behind. Even in an alcoholic pilsner, there's not. So, I couldn't even imagine with this type of, you've got now no alcohol, and therefore you have to use less malt and etc. So talk us through this. Yeah, we're talking about the recipe. Like, how did you
absolutely. So it's sort of, I think for me, as sort of the technical guy of the three, regardless of what we were going to make, our beers have to be compelling as beers.
Right.
Like, we want them to be thought of in that regard first. And that was probably the starting point for all three of our products, really, our core three anyway, and anything we do in the future. But in terms of like style iteration and making some choices, we needed to specifically have that sort of the body of the beer work out the right way. A lot of the stuff that we spent, Steve, I don't even want to know how many beers we drank before we started making our own, but a lot. And one of the things we thought was really challenging was getting that sort of mouthfeel body balance right. Super tricky to get that correct. And you're absolutely right. With something that has lighter malt character, it's not aggressively hot by any means. You have to have a little yeast note in there as well. You want that yeast to do what it's doing, to properly ferment out, and as a result, it has to come across like the general article, as close as we can get there to it, right? So that was sort of our plan with our lagered ale. It was like, can we get there? Can we replicate what is happening? There's a lot of great breweries doing lagers and lagered ales and Kolsch style beers, and that's wonderful. Can we take it to that next step and make a non-alcoholic beer, but have it as a compelling beer by itself? So that was a big thing for us. All of our beers will be flavor forward first, and we want to sort of relate we want the beer drinker to sort of recognize these as such. And that's kind of the driving force in terms of all the recipe designs. And then from there, going back and looking at some literature, some recipe design, there's tons of it out there. And then sort of dialing in where we want to sit in that style world. And for us, it's really straightforward that way in terms of recipe design. We have one hop in that beer. I think there's 2 malts, possibly, maybe like 2 malts, basically creating the whole thing. Like, it's really, really simple. And then what's occurring in the brew house is really just really fine attention to detail on process. And that's how we get there. And that's kind of was the driving force for all three. When we were sort of on the original iterations of the recipes, I think we were working on the Hazy first. I can't remember. It's been a couple years now, but
yeah, I think so.
I think we started plugging away on the Hazy first as something hoppy and hop forward and really flavor forward. And I think we kind of went backwards from there. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The lagered ale was tricky because it wasn't working out how we wanted.
No.
And it took some practice to get it to where it is now. And I would say even now, like now forward for us, one of the big challenges on the technical side for us is just is continual refinement. Like, just continue to get better at it and perfect that process. And that's really sort of, we have multiple challenges all the time.
Yeah, I bet.
But at least on the recipe design side, it's refinement, and we're constantly striving for that. And I hope that will be reflected in the quality of the drinking experience going forward.
Hell yeah. It's let's talk through the flavor notes as well on this. That's a great explanation. So I'm getting, like, if you drank this blind, I think it's pretty clear that it's a Kolsch. I imagine you guys, that was probably part of the intention as well. Like, that it's...
Absolutely, yeah.
The yeasts are definitely coming through, as you said. Obviously, all non-alcoholic craft beers are, I was about to say significantly light. I don't know if I want to say that, but you can tell for the most part that it's a non-alcoholic beer. And the challenge there is to get in those malt flavors, like you said, it's a simple beer with not too many ingredients. So to be able to do that, I feel like there's tons of malt flavor here. It doesn't taste, like people just call it thin or watery or something. I definitely don't get that with this. I feel like there's a lot of flavor in this beer. Is there any sort of tasting notes? I mean, I'm definitely getting that bready cereal vibe that you would expect from a Kolsch. I don't really get any crazy grassy bitterness or anything. And I'm not sure if that was intended.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Like, by design, this beer is not bitter at all. I think in terms of the malt character, we do want that sort of like bready cereal, like really sort of clean malt note. We don't want it to be overbearing or powerful though, which, if you're not careful, that can happen as well. And then from the hop side, we want just enough bitterness to balance that.
Right.
I don't want it to be aggressively bitter. Sometimes the grassiness can be overdone as well. So again, it's just a clean play there. So if I had to say anything, we're probably leaning, lighter on the hops in this beer for sure. Mm-hmm. But we think it makes it way more approachable as a result. There's plenty of iterations. Well, I'm thinking alcohol wise now, but you can get that. You can get that like really hardcore, like aggressive grassy hop note if you want it. I think we're sort of leaning, I wouldn't say away from it, but on the lighter side of it for sure.
Right.
And that's definitely
more accessible for the 3 beers. Yeah.
Yeah. I think our big
and that
one
was
just
idea,
sort of
going into it.
Yeah. We just want it to be like super clean, super crisp, super refreshing. Like, that was kind of like our 3 sort of guiding posts. And, we're really happy with the latest iterations, and we'll actually be brewing new stuff coming up actually in the next couple of weeks, which is great news for us. So we hope to continue that.
Oof. If we're allowed to talk about that towards the end, let's definitely touch on that. But this, yeah, man, I think you guys did a really good job. Like I feel like as well, and this is just from my exploration of non-alcoholic beers over the last, I want to say 2.5 years tops type of thing. I haven't been into it for a long time, but I feel like the least common style that I see in non-alc is this. It's like a cultural pilsner lager or something.
Oh,
What's up with
that's
that?
it. Yeah. It just happens to be one of the most popular styles of beer in the world. Like
I think
it's not a light lager, but it's pretty darn close, right?
Yeah.
And it is very challenging to get this. As you described, it's a naked beer, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy for it to just taste like an unfermented, warty mess. And Rob has done an outstanding job. And as he mentioned, it was not easy making this beer.
Yeah.
Took a lot of challenges. And I mean, COVID was a horrible thing that we all endured, but making this and perfecting this beer through that was really one of the challenges. And he had the time to work on it in his home system. And that's the story of all these beers was, developing recipes, having meetings like this on Zoom or Google, and then meeting up monthly with whatever Rob had created at a parking lot in Etobicoke and sampling it like we were tailgating next to a toy store. It was a very odd way to start our business, but we had nowhere else to go, right? We couldn't go indoors. So
man, you couldn't go to anyone's house.
couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
and of course we chose
yeah.
a parking lot with no washroom, which wasn't ideal, but chugging back all this non-alcoholic beer and then figuring out, we gotta find a bush pretty quick. So it
Super
was
hydrated.
That's awesome.
It was crazy, but yes, perfecting it, and we were our own harshest critics, because Rob and I have been in this business a long time now, and we knew when this was going to be released finally commercially, we were going to be under a lot of scrutiny. So it really had to be to the highest standard, and we beat ourselves up. And remember, we had one batch, Rob, and well, there's reasons why we had to dump it that were out of our control for a fair bit, but yeah, that was a tragedy. Like it was like aborting the liftoff right before, just as the rocket's about to go.
It was tough. Like it's
very
just
tough.
To speak to that time, like, my little garage setup is purely for A, fun, and B, R&D. And
now
if
it's
there's
a
something
shrine.
interesting, if there's something I want to work on, I can knock out a brew, no problem, right? And dumping it at the 20-liter scale is no big deal, right? And then also perfecting it at the 20-liter scale is one thing, and then the scalability and making it work on smaller pro systems and then bigger pro systems, like those are growing pains we've lived through, and they're not fun. And it's hard to this is not even beer related, but just the knowledge translation to get from what I have written down on a piece of paper and very explicit, like step-by-step routine or process, to have that work at scale and by someone else generally, because we're currently contract brewing, is two completely different animals. And we've had multiple iterations of that, trying to get from like, oh, we're super happy with this at the homebrew scale, and that's wonderful. How do we get up to where we need to be to do what we want to do, right? And we endured.
How do you get a brewer? Brewers are like they're like chefs, right? So Rob will say, step 1, step 2, step 3, follow my steps, and they go, well, right. I think I do it this way, and it's like, no,
and like it's a bit of it is just the nature of the business, and that's fine. But the reality is,
there's no ego in beer. What are you talking about?
The reality is, we dumped. I lost count at the hectoliter level, but we dumped a lot of hex initially, which really, really hurts. But to Steve's point, we've been plugging away. We've been plugging away in the brewing business for a while, and that it's not flavor first or flavor forward, or if it can't pass muster as a real beer,
you get reamed.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough, and we had to. We're hyper aware of that, and as Steve said, we're our own worst critics, and we also have no problem dumping as hard as it is. We'll do it. And that's, I think that is something you have to be okay with to move forward. And the guys were, like, to their credit, if the final say, if I didn't like it, was going down the drain, and we stood by that, and I was very appreciative of it.
Rob has final say, Yeah. I'm like, I don't know, guys, we got to start making money. I mean, obviously we're not making money yet, but we also want to be very proud of our product. So these are the sacrifices.
If you do it the right way. We look back on that now, and it's it was growing pains. It's better to talk about now than be living through it. And we're in a better spot.
Would Manscaped consider sponsoring us? We could use some money to get them sponsorship.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Free Manscaped with every can of beer.
You know what I mean? Just give yourself a little bit of a trim. I like that. I feel like that could be a thing. Like
groom your tubes while you're drinking. I don't know. You don't want to be drunk while you're doing that. That could be very dangerous.
And that's the whole point. It's a self-care routine. Tone down your alcohol.
I'm the marketing guy, so I'm always looking for an angle. We like collaboration.
I like that. I'll get that email happening right after we wrap.
Thank you.
Okay, this is my pleasure. Okay, that's some really good context. So then let's pull it back a sec, and I'd love to hear how both of you guys got involved in beer, and then how the three of you connected and then started the project.
Okay. Go first, Steve-O.
Oh, my turn? All right. Let's see. I have been in the business now since 2001, really, right after 9/11. I had this crazy idea to start a business with some guys, which eventually became Mill Street Brewery. So that was, So I started Mill Street. We opened our doors in December of 2002. So 21 years ago. Down in the distillery district. So, and that was another one of these three guys and obstacles and all kinds of things that we weren't prepared for. We learned a lot. At the time, there was probably maybe 30 craft breweries in the whole province, if that. Now there's 300.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah,
so,
at least,
yeah.
At least, yeah.
So, we kept going for quite a while, and it was eventually sold. And once my non-compete expired, I had this idea. I knew Rob because Rob he'll tell you, but he was the head brewer of Mill Street. He worked under Joel Manning.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Can I just interrupt for 1 second? I know this is completely off topic, but this is fascinating. I always want to ask, was it difficult for you to make the decision to sell? Because I feel like in craft beer, at least maybe not.
There is a podcast I just did with Ben a couple weeks ago. Do you know Ben Johnson?
Yeah.
He kind of grilled me pretty hard on that, and
I don't like the grilling on that at all. I don't agree with that because I like.
What I will say is, the timing obviously was right.
Yeah.
But what people have to remember also is that we had many, many shareholders, even though it was a privately held company, and it ranged from, people who had invested considerable sums to people who had cashed out their RSPs, who were, public transit workers, TTC, firemen. It was a wide range of people, friends and family, who all at some point needed to see some payday with this thing. So, it was a very happy ending for quite a few people. A lot of tears of joy were shed, when you get to give a check to some little old lady who pretty much at some point figured it was a write-off, and then you're able to give them their money back and then some. So, yeah, it's just to consider it wasn't just us and a bunch of fat cats sitting in a room smoking cigars going, yeah, boys, yeah, we're all going to make some big money. It wasn't that at all. It was something, I think it was our, what do they call it? Your fiduciary responsibility to show. So that's part of it. So,
gotcha. No,
was it difficult? Yeah, it was my baby, right? It was from, I named the stupid thing. Because we were on Mill Street and couldn't think of a name.
Hey man, simple and effective.
Okay. So yeah, it wasn't an easy decision, but it was certainly we were very happy. No one put a gun to our head or anything.
Gotcha. No, that's cool. And I definitely was. I've got all respect. If you're going to sell, I don't care. I think a lot of people in craft forget that beer is a business and that, like what you said, there's a responsibility and that you can make these decisions and it's not the end of the world. It's okay. It's like a part of the cycle.
Yeah.
And look at you. You're back in beer. So like, what's the
Well, yeah, I did try some other things after this. I thought I'd try my hand at real estate, and I became a landlord. And fixing people's toilets was really, after a while, became a little much. Settling, roommate disputes, all that crap. But and of course, the value of real estate got insane, so it wasn't really a good time for that.
No,
So, but yeah, I realized that beer was really something that I loved, and I did well with it. It's just it's a combination of everything. It's fun. The people in it are awesome. I'm more on the event marketing side and all that. So we used to do all kinds of crazy events. I miss that. So we're trying to recreate that with a bit of a twist with non-alcoholic beer, and we can get into that. But it's fun, and it's a very liberating thing to not have all the regulation that regular alcohol must abide by. So we're having a lot of fun, actually.
Very cool, man. I didn't mean to take that off track a little bit. I just wanted to ask while we were on the topic. So Rob was the head brewer at Mill Street, which is amazing. I know when you talk, I got some extra questions for you about that because that's sick. So you guys had obviously known each other for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, you tell them what you did. Yeah.
Yeah. So my brewing adventure, I got into the industry 2003 as a summer student at Sleeman in Guelph.
Dope.
And I got into the quality assurance lab. And my first summer there was basically night shifts doing packaging inspections on the bottle, can, and keg lines. Like they needed someone for nights because they were busy, and I was happy to take the job. And it was
Did you do candling?
Oh yeah, I've done all of it, man.
Oh, do you know what candling is, man? Do you know what that is?
I actually don't know what that is.
Like, it's with bottles, but you like. At some point, the human has to be like the last line of defense, and they rotate bottles sort of from, if that's the top of the bottle, you rotate it down to and you just see the bubbles or anything floating inside that the machine, the detectors can't pick up. Mm-hmm. If you catch something, you pull it off.
Oh, and that's called
but it's behind a really bright light, or in front of a bright light, so it reflects, because if it's a brown bottle, you can't see much without really, so you're staring at this thing for hours. You have to take a break because it's really monotonous, but just you watch someone who's candling and they're just like in the zone watching. It's like watching an x-ray of just like hundreds of beer bottles going by every minute. You're just like,
that sounds crazy.
Not a fun gig.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's they rotate it through, like you have to sort of, do your time. It's usually 1 or 2 hours and they shift you out. If you do it for 8, you go bananas, obviously, right? Yeah. So
Gotcha.
Got in there, was working on the packaging side. They liked me enough to bring me back the following year, which is wonderful. And then that turned into a full-time gig. So I was at Sleeman from till about 2007. And then I went back to school. I went to Edinburgh to do my master's degree in brewing and distillation science.
Nice.
And then from there came back and worked at, do you know of Magnata, the winery sort of brewery?
Yep.
So they have a little brewery in their main facility up in Vaughan there. Woodbridge, yeah.
Okay.
And I was there for a couple years, and then from there I went to Mill Street and worked with Steve and the crew. Till about 2014.
Right.
And then 2014, had an opportunity to go down to the Niagara College, and I've kind of been there ever since. I worked in the teaching brewery there as a head brewer for a year, and then a full-time role on the teaching side came up, and I jumped on that, and it's kind of what I'm doing. I've been doing that ever since. So passing on the knowledge and experience and to the next generation lately is kind of my gig. And in between all that, I had my own little contract brand that I got off the ground and sold off. We got COVIDed. It was we took a huge hit, and we sold the brand off, which was, I didn't make any money, basically broke even, and then turned around and started working with Steve on this project, which has been awesome, like super challenging, super fun.
Yeah.
And onwards and upwards.
Oh yeah. Some quick questions then, if I may. I don't want to dwell on past stuff, but I don't get a chance to talk to guys like you that often because because Mill Street was a real big deal for me when I first moved to Canada in 2010, 10, I sort of really discovered beer properly through Mill Street was one of the main things. So I have a huge soft spot. I didn't care about the sales stuff that craft beer people get upset about. So like I'm just fascinated. So I think this is amazing. So did you design any of the beers any like the big whether it's Tank House? I mean, I was probably around beforehand, but
Tank House did change a bit over the years, right? Yeah, that was originally done.
There's some process changes. So if anything, mainly just process improvement. Was my gig. To be honest with you, as a head brewer, you're at least at that scale, your job is not recipe design. Like if Joel were to ask my opinion, I would give him one. But the reality was I was there to develop and execute a production schedule and make sure the beers are on point. Like that was kind of my role. And doing that at scale is way different than doing, 20 hect batch once a month. You know what I mean? We were doing, oh geez, it was an insane amount of volume. But we were doing something like, at our peak summer, we were probably doing 12 brews in 24 hours, maybe 14. Like it was intense. So like you see a lot really quickly, which is great.
I'll send you a picture of Rob with Joel from when you guys did the barrels, the barrel aged barley wine, using the bourbon. Yeah. That just popped up as a memory in Facebook for me. So that had to be, I think, 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that was.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew Joel Manning, or if you ever met him or knew of him, but he was the brewmaster of Mill Street. He passed away a few years ago. It was very tragic. Okay. But he was a really well-regarded brewer in North America and Europe as well. He was a remarkable guy.
That was great.
Just a wonderful human being, and it was a tragedy. He had a heart attack. It was awful.
Poor guy.
But we miss him.
But yeah, so like in that role at that scale, for what Mill Street was, I was just executing a game plan. Player coach, if you will, doing work and also coaching the team was probably
Rob's also not selling himself as well because he was the first guy to really do a hazy, like a New England style beer in Ontario with your own brand, right?
Yeah, we were one of the first. When we did you ever hear of Bronan?
You did High Road
at all? Yeah.
Yeah, that's his company.
Buddy,
okay, so Bronan, I remember like people were like obsessed with that beer. So that was like a Vermont.
Yeah, so was I.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I only had it like once, maybe twice, and I kept hearing about because I lived in Montreal for 10 years. So I was only like, I only moved back to Ontario last summer. So I came back regularly, but I just didn't have easy access to it. And I tried it in a can, like 2018 or something. But I know everyone kept telling me, "Nah, you need to have it like fresh, from the taps." But
yeah.
So that
absolutely,
this is it's interesting that you brought this up because we've had this convo a lot about what was the first hazy IPA. Do you know then? Because I'll tell you when you tell me what the last person told me. I'm no authority on the matter. I'm just passing on what people told me. When did that beer come out? Would you say?
We incorporated end of 2014, and then we probably started selling that beer, I want to say March, April 2015, in keg only.
In keg only. Okay, I think that would trump. My gosh, Barncat did one. I think they told me April 2016. So then that would.
Okay, yeah, no, the Barncat guys are great, man. Like their beers they're solid. They're really solid. I'm a fan. I haven't been to Barncat in ages, but their beers are really solid. And I was a fan of what they were doing. Like they sort of did it different than us. Like we had no capital, so we just bought kegs and put beer in it, right? And like we had an opportunity to rent some space off the college. So we did it, and Barncat kind of went a different direction. Like they were able to scrape together some money to get some small gear and go that route. And from my understanding, they're still doing great. So that's awesome. But
okay,
April.
Awesome,
I would say April 2015 was our first round. It was. I can tell you lots of funny stories about that, but like we had such a hard time just selling 5 hex of that beer.
That was my next question.
It was hilarious.
People wouldn't have been like, "What the fuck is this? Why is it? What's wrong with it?"
Yeah, they had no idea.
Yeah,
no idea what it was, and it was. We were like, it's awesome. Try it, and as soon as they put it on, it took off, which was great. But like, it was such a hard sell. I think it took me 7 or 8 weeks to sell 500 liters. So,
jeez, okay.
Initially, and then another almost month to sell the next 500 liters, and then it kind of got on better than that. But like, that was kind of the story initially, anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. I learned a ton. I'm definitely technical. My knowledge is technical in the brewing industry, but that forced me to have an appreciation for what guys like Mike and Steve do on a daily.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made me a better brewer as a result. So it was, as much as it didn't work out, it worked out wonderfully as well. If you want to, I can say that.
I love that. Thank you guys both for answering that. I know that was a little off topic, but I feel like it paints the picture about your.
It all leads to where we are today, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
And I feel like if I'm curious about it, then I imagine that a lot of people watching and listening will feel the same way. So, would you guys want to do the next beer? Feeling ready?
Yeah.
Sure.
Ready.
Hazy time?
I won't F it up this time.
No, you're good.
Beautiful. There we go.
Yes, look, you guys. I got to walk a few steps. Do you want to start telling us about that beer?
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Rob, tell us the story, Rob.
Yeah, no problem.
Wait a minute.
So our Hazy IPA is sort of our homage to those East Coast style IPAs. I don't think I can get as specific as a Vermont style, but we're trying to replicate or again just recognize that it's a wonderful beer style and super enjoyable to drink, and we want to sort of make a non-alcoholic version that sort of hopefully stands
3D.
up. And
yeah, look at that. Look at this gorgeous little guy.
And again,
you like the packaging?
Love it. I'm a big fan of block colors. I love block colors because then it stands out. If you put them all in the fridge together, they look gorgeous. I think simple is often better. I think
we put a lot of time and effort, all of us, Rob, Mike, and then just figuring out packaging that we liked. It was really a lot of trips to the supermarket, walking up and down aisles, not just at beer, but just products. What really struck us, and I think it's a little more old school, a little more traditional in many ways, in its boldness, but the colors are very different. But
I love the colors are my favorite part, particularly this one.
Yeah, me too.
Teal or aqua, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Half day blue.
Yeah, it's perfect. It just kind of like what'd you call it?
Half day blue. Well, it's half day hazy.
Oh yeah, half day blue.
Half day blue.
I like that.
Okay, actually, here's a good question for you. Sorry, Rob. We'll get back to the beer once.
No, go ahead.
So, again, we go back friends and family. And when we started this, Harmon, just so you know, is my mother's maiden name. That's what
that was going to be one of my questions. Okay.
Yeah. So it's my mom's maiden name. So I'm originally from the U.S. I'm from New York City. So I got a lot of cousins who talk like this, who are from
coffee over here,
Queens, Long Island, Brooklyn, most. And
I know
so.
Vibes.
What's that?
I know the vibes. This is my favorite accent ever.
Yeah. So they, so we were, asked them like their opinion. They were all thrilled to have Harmons, and because all their sisters, there was 5 of them, so all my cousins are all happy. But when we started asking them some questions about names, and my friends in America especially, we said half day, and no one understood what that meant. And that's when it occurred to me that I've lived in Canada now 21 years. It's a very UK Commonwealth expression to say a half day. Is that something you use? Because
it was like
right?
like a half day at school or work
or
whatever it might be. It's super common.
Yeah.
It's super common.
It didn't resonate at all with any Americans, and I realized that's when I've been here a while, because I was like, it's a half day, and they're like what's that? What's a half day? And then Americans don't take half days.
No, they just get forced to work. No benefits, no nothing.
Exactly.
Just work.
Which is interesting. But it's more of just a cultural nuance, I guess. But
that is always interesting, seeing the differences, even though there's an imaginary line. And even though I'm here now, and I haven't been traveling much in the last 3 years, and it's very different in Canada. Very different. Most people.
It is. I mean, even the craft beer scene here is so much more was very lager oriented versus Michigan, Ohio, New York State. They were really shocked at how much lager is made up of the craft scene in
Canada.
Ontario specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in Ontario, yeah, like Creemore, Steam Whistle, Organic, those were the big craft brands,
Mm-hmm. In the
And
earlier days, I guess you mean?
in the last 10 years, yeah.
The last 10
Still,
years?
no, volume-wise, they're still huge, yeah,
Volume,
compared
yeah,
to...
it's probably the biggest, I would say, volume. I would say culturally, like in craft beer, the biggest would be a hazy IPA, like a New England style IPA. As
I think
far
the
as
biggest seller right now in the LCBO is that Flying Monkeys.
Juicy Ass, yeah, which is
Yeah, they sell tons of that stuff. So you're right, but it's but a lot of it's like a big lager contingent.
There definitely is. Even if you think about like craft beer as like the lineup culture, like which beers or which styles are people going to go and line up for? It's either hazy IPAs, like heavily fruited smoothies, or barrel aged stouts. Typically the pastries. At least in Montreal, those are a real big lineup culture. I had lined up in Ontario before too, but I feel like it's maybe few and further between. But if you look at what people are kind of circle jerking over, it's typically all of that. But I almost feel like lagers have made this crazy comeback over the last 3-4 years, maybe a little bit before COVID. And I think it's because my theory, I've said this on here before, was I don't know if you guys saw it, but the Czech Republic have a government program. Are you familiar with that? Where they send brewers to the Czech Republic over this sort of like, I don't know if it's an exchange program, but they have this thing where you go over there and you hang out for, I believe it's only a week. It's not super long, and they take you around, and you meet the equipment manufacturers and the malt growers and the hop sellers, like the whole works, and basically get people kind of obsessed with Czech beers. And I feel like they did that enough, because I noticed it between Quebec and Ontario. All of a sudden, there's this whole like flood of Czech style lagers and pilsners, and I feel like that has been a big driver for a lot of at least renewed interest in the style.
Yeah, it's great.
Which I think is sick.
Super interesting. I would tend to agree with you on the lager side from the craft guys, at least paying attention to it a bit more. I do think it goes back to just slightly before COVID, and COVID probably put the brakes on it more than anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like kind of slowed that down. I think probably, summer 2019, it was kind of starting. You'd see them, craft guys are sort of showing that off. Like there's a lot of Instagram slow pouring going on, with the Czech taps.
That's 100%.
You know what I mean? Like
even before
it looks super.
The Luca, it was a 3-step slow pour thing, even out of a regular tap or a can. Then the Luca started coming on, because I remember I discovered it in like Virginia in like 2019. I was like, the fuck is this? And it was crazy. And then I think the slow pour for Instagram, where they had those meringue big ass heads that like
were just
totally aesthetic. Man. It looks super sexy, and sure, like, are you gonna wait 20 minutes for your slow pour? I'm not, but like,
prefer not
if it looks good if it drives people through the front door, why not? But and then I think it just kind of hit a bit of a speed bump with COVID, and I'd say it probably comes back pretty strong. Maybe this year, hopefully. That'd be nice to see, frankly, for all the Ontario craft guys, and off we go. So yeah. I can't remember the starting question on that, but that's okay.
We were talking about the hazy.
Talk about this. It'll just be the half day hazy IPA. Tell us about this one, fellas.
Yeah. So again, always flavor forward and balance are kind of the driving points here. Again, we're trying to not have anything massively over bitter again. So having just enough bitterness to balance the malt character, and then having just enough malt character to support all the dry hopping going on. And that's kind of, from a technical point of view, that's something I was thinking a lot about. And then, it's got to have, stylistically, it's got to have a touch more of that, that maltness to it. And then at that point, you think about, okay, well, how do I keep it super hazy, or as hazy as I can in the can, given the nature of the product and what we're doing with it. So like, again, those like the malt selections there are leaning towards that element, right? So what do I need to sort of keep the haze in? And it's not all that different from any other hazies out there, right? We're using a little bit of wheat, we're using a little bit of oats, we're getting that sort of cloudy nature to it, and then that is offset by just regular straight barley malt, and that's sort of we wanted it to like look like sort of sunrise sunset, particularly kind of sunsetty in color.
I see that.
So we just wanted to touch on that, and off you go. So it's really just again just us paying homage to an awesome style, and want it to be considered a flavor forward, wonderful beer. That's kind of our goal. Yeah.
This one is
I
fantastic.
think,
Yes, go, Steven.
I don't know if I can say this yet, but it seems to be evolving into our most popular of the three. It's still early days, but I just came back from BC and we did a trade show in Vancouver, and hands down that was the most popular one. Of course, BC is a very flavor forward hop town, like Vancouver and all these places have great beer. So it was really nice to see the reaction from that scene as well. So
That's awesome.
who knows though? I mean, I love them all for different reasons, right? But it's going to be interesting to see how this horse race plays out.
I can see people
absolutely.
enjoying this one a lot, particularly if you're hitting the like we were talking before, like the sort of heavy craft consumer, because I guess you guys have a much wider kind of like target demo, I would imagine, than just the typical craft beer drinker.
Now, that's going to be our biggest fan, hopefully, and that's what do they call them? Your early adopter. I mean, clearly, if you don't like beer, you're not going to like this stuff, and that's kind of my joke to people when I'm sampling, because you get people like, oh, I'm like, do you like beer? I'm like, well, not really. I'm like, well, then you'll hate this stuff because it's beer.
Tastes like beer.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then they're pleasantly surprised because, oh, it's not that bitter. I'm like, well, it's a style of beer that isn't overly hopped, and so it's and I think that's the misconception, not just with non-alcoholic beer, with beer in general, that beer is bitter. Beer is, scrape your tongue off. It's, there's so many styles of hops, and it's really remarkable how, crossbreeding these plants has created a whole, these plants can taste like mango, or they can taste like pineapple, or it's just, it's remarkable. And, and it's not like a GMO thing. It's just clever, husbandry, I guess you'd call it. Just,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, and they're always
there's
coming
that
up with
element
new.
to it, and like I think from like if you think sort of maybe Ontario history, and like I don't want to get it's American craft went through it as well, but like at one point it was the drive to put as many IBUs into a beer as possible, right? Like
the torpedo,
can we
remember
get
that?
Right. Can we get to 100? Can we get to 100 IBUs, and then can we get to 120, and then can we just like make your face pucker because it's so crazy, right? And like, and I think that maybe the casual beer drinker who initially tried craft beer back whenever that would have been, like I don't know, like 90s or whatever, it probably people kind of maybe turn their nose up a little bit. I don't know. Who knows? But it's funny that it sticks with people that long, really. You know what I mean? Or that's their impression of what's going on, right? Or what's hilarious to me is someone who would try like a light lager and think that was bitter, and it's just perspective at that point, which is also super funny. But
if your palate's not used to it, but we're finding that people really enjoy this across the board. But craft fans to people who aren't necessarily big beer drinkers, but I like to say that if you like beer, if you like good beer, you'll like our stuff, and that's our target demo. But yeah, I mean, it's not young people drinking ready to drink White Claws and neutrals and all that stuff. That ain't our scene, man.
To Steve and Mike's credit too, like one thing both Steve and Mike are big proponents of is just getting out and having people try it, regardless of what the reaction is. Like, and that's been a big push for us this year. Steve, like he said, he just did a show in Vancouver, and mainly it was to gauge reaction and talk to folks. We did the Cottage Life show a couple weeks back. That was fantastic for us.
It was
awesome. Wonderful. Next week we're doing Restaurant Canada, and like it's just all the same thing, right? And we'll hit various farmers markets throughout the GTA and down Ryam and Hamilton. Hopefully this summer, and not every week, but we're trying to sort of have a guest spot as kind of our selling pitch, and hopefully people buy into it. And if we swing by once a month, and hit a few different ones, that's kind of really appealing for us, and hopefully for the venues as well. But liquid to lips and having people try it, regardless of what the reaction is kind of what you have to do, and if it's just part of the game.
I love that. You said you're in Hamilton?
Yep.
Nice. So are we. Maybe you and neighbors.
I'm Ancasterish, so up the mountain to the west.
Okay, I'm near Gage Parkish, so a little on the lower side, but it's not.
Oh yeah, no, cool. Like, yeah, totally know that area.
Close.
Yeah,
Hamilton's great.
Awesome.
Love it. Let's happen out there.
Yeah.
Okay, sick. Okay, this is fascinating, but this beer is great. Obviously, I'm already halfway through it. Super tropical. The nose is really bright. Super fruity. I'm definitely getting that mango and everything in there. What are the hops specifically in this one?
I'm a big fan of blends, so I tend to blend a lot of my dry hopping. I don't think that's uncommon. I do love doing it.
Yeah.
But the big ones in there it's Mosaic, Citra, and Simcoe are sort of the blend. I'm not going to give ratios, but that's sort of what we're working with those three. And we're trying to give that, like I just said, a little tropical note, little, kind of, got that classic Citra note as well, which is really nice to sort of to hold it down, and then sort of kind of pairs well with that sort of sunsetty color of the beer, right? So that was kind of the iteration there, and all super for anyone technical. It's all super late additions, obviously, and significant dry hop going in as well, and having that balance when there's no 0.5% or less alcohol in it is frankly the key to making that work so nicely. And again, a lot of dump beer.
Yeah, man. Dedicated to getting it right. No, that's awesome. This is probably my favorite too. I think they all have their place, and I really love the next one we're going to do because I love West Coast as well.
Me too.
But there's something about this that I feel like this will be the kind of what you're talking about before, Steve, where if people don't like beer, I've found that when I have friends who don't like beer, I'm like, yo, try this, and it's a New England IPA. They're like, oh my God, it's not.
You have friends who don't like beer? Oh, can't imagine that.
My girlfriend's friends. She's my friend too. But I specifically one friend. Well, she's my friend now. But I showed her, we're in New York, and I was drinking another half, and she's like, oh, can I try it? Why does it look like that? I'm like, sure, have a sip. And she's like, oh, wow, this is fantastic. So I always remember that as being I feel like New England and this kind of style beer is very much underrated gateway beer for people who don't like beer, because it doesn't taste like what they think of fizzy yellow grandpa water type of beer. So it sort of opens up
Agreed.
Which obviously the three of us are fans of, but this is something that a lot of people this will probably speak to the most palates would be if I had to hazard a guess, that's probably what I would assume. And actually, I guess you guys will probably start to find out more as the more people get to.
We shall see.
The more you get to do it. This is fantastic. So the next part of the story, and I like these little we're pausing and going on tangents. This is fun. So then the next part was, all right, so, Mill Street, Brewing, everything's all there. You go your separate ways, obviously, when all of that finished. Everyone's doing different things. How did this particular project start? Where was the idea from? How did you guys come up with it all?
So I had stopped drinking 2000, what year? It was 20...
It's 2023.
Before the pandemic started. It was November. And went with the family on a holiday to San Diego.
Okay.
And, I honestly, the stopping drinking was long overdue. It's a rough industry to be in for many years. You see, young guys developing gout, and, just drinking constantly it's not good for you. And, it's just part of the industry that, it's a tough thing to do. So I needed the rest. And as I went on this holiday, of course, Patty, my wife, was saying she needed some white wine. So off to the liquor store I went this is in La Jolla.
Oh, yeah.
And as I go in, I look up, and there's a whole section on the wall of craft non-alcoholic beer. These were just little indie breweries that I had never heard of, with all kinds of different flavor profiles and styles. There was wheat beers, apricot wheat. There was hazy beers. What was that Brooklyn Special Effects? There was a couple of these just fantastic ones. So what did I do? I just grabbed one of each, headed back to our Airbnb, and for the rest of the holiday, just like cracking on vacation, just drinking these things and going, holy crap, holy crap. I mean, some were better than others,
Of course.
but the fact that there was such variety, and for me, I wanted a beer. I love beer, you know. It was tough not drinking, you know, and
Especially in San
have this
Diego,
really satisfied my craving.
Mm.
It was awesome. So I called Rob. I think I might have texted you. I don't know. I was like, Rob, how do we do this? Can you do this? Have you ever done it? Rob, had you ever made non-alcoholic beer before?
No, until I started plugging away on our project, my interest, it was purely technical. Like, how do you go about it? And that was driven more so from, you know, more my role in at the college, at Niagara College, was just to sort of, okay, let's do a little deep dive in here, see if I can find some interesting things to talk about, and if I can get it fit it into one of my courses, I'll just have a little blurb on it, just be like as a sort of tangent more than anything else, because, you know, at that time, we've been paranoid about trying to get our product out, but like even back in 2020, like it's been an explosion since then. So from there, it was like, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, just I knew the timing. Like, it just, a light bulb went off saying, this is an opportunity. This is my chance to get back in the game, and I know a guy who could nail this. But timing is everything, right? And absolutely. I knew that other people would be jumping on this, as Rob's saying to it. So while we just wanted to get on it, like just making it right, we had to take your time. We don't want to screw it up.
So like, I had, you know, like I said, I've got my little tiny pilot brewery in my garage, and kind of started right away, just plugging away. And like, frankly, I would be embarrassed if you tried the beers that came off of that brew system the first few times. Like, probably the first 5 or 6 were horrible, frankly, in my opinion. They were okay. Like, they did what they were supposed to do. They sort of gave a direction as to how we wanted to approach this. Mm-hmm. But, you know, garbage, frankly, in my opinion.
It was going to take as long as it was going to take. Like, there was no like, Rob, you have to have it ready by January 1st, or we're going to be at it. There was no pressure like that. It was more just, you know, we'll get ready, and in the meantime, develop the brand, develop the names, and all the fun stuff that went with it. And so, then that's like, where Mike came in, who is not here.
Yeah. So like so much work on all fronts, and like as we continue to iterate, at least on my end, the path became more and more clear as to how we wanted to do this, and sort of make it. It's a Harmon spin. It's our spin on what non-alc can be, and we just want to share that, and that's kind of the play. Like, that's the idea. 0.5% beer is on the extreme low end of the beer scale if you're thinking alcohol wise, but you know, there's also beers that live at 10, 12 and higher percentages, right? So like, if you want to say 5% is where 99% of the beers are, 95% of it, we're right down at the other end. But it still has to be compelling as a beer, and that's how we sort of approached our beer making. And yeah, so as Steve said, it was there was no set timeline. It was like, can we make it awesome? And if we can, let's talk about moving the football down the field a bit more, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, and Mike came into it. Mike and Rob were high school best buddies, and Rob said, hey, you know, I've got a friend who's really interested to get into something entrepreneurial. And Mike has a background in sales and marketing and logistics, which is something that, you know, let's face it, like I was used to, you know, having 3 channels to sell your beer, right? You got the LCBO, maybe a little bit of the grocery, and that came later, the beer store, and bars and restaurants on premise, right? Licensee, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And with this now, we have e-commerce, we have grocery stores, we have health food stores. One of my biggest customers is a butcher shop. We've got 3 locations in the East. I mean, it's crazy. I can sell this stuff anywhere, which is, I think I mentioned earlier, it's liberating. It's great that we can do it, but it wasn't my wheelhouse. So Mike's background in e-commerce and understanding logistics and what it costs to ship stuff, he has been incredibly helpful and integral in getting this thing going. And I mean, he even wrote all the code. Remember our website? He did all the code. Yeah. I mean, guy's a whiz. We call him numbers.
I don't even know you could do that, frankly, which is great. But like, I think
You do that?
where Mike comes in, and I feel his real strength to the group is he has the ability to understand the larger, like the macro chains and the strategies they employ.
Yeah.
And, the smaller chain stores are doing the same thing, just not at scale. But like that's Mike's world, and he understands it. And we can bounce ideas off him all the time, and he can give him his take, right? And then, I think Steve and I come from that bit more sort of craft indie world where, you just knock on the door of the bar and you harass people, and like that's my strength, and I'm not even good at it, but like that's the world I come from. And you can't do that at Loblaws, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not happening, right? So like Mike's been great.
Hey, Galen, sell my beer.
It's like, come on,
that's it. And
get him on the
come on, Galen, let's go.
And not to mention all the other stuff he's excellent at, but I feel his ability to sort of talk that language and walk that line has been really helpful for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we all bring something different to the table, and it's been a great partnership. And again, I reiterate, having been kicked in the nuts, for the last year and a half repeatedly, we still manage to laugh and have fun. And we don't sit in a room together. I think we've actually been together, maybe a dozen times now over the past few years. It's, there are meetings like this. We're all in different places, all taking care of different aspects of the biz. And, and these guys, they have day jobs too, right? Like I'm still doing this full time and it's a lot of work, but it's fun to see it moving forward. And, when you sample and you get those kind of reactions, it makes it all worthwhile. So,
yeah,
I just feel like we're at a precipice. The industry is changing and evolving, and it's fun to be a part of that change. Kind of cool.
I agree a lot. We were chatting about this just before we started. I think it's a fascinating conversation as far as like exactly that. Like the industry is changing, drinking habits are changing, and the way that the brewing business, instead of, and this maybe sets off the conversation, we did a podcast a few months ago. I think we called it The Future of Craft Beer. And the idea is that, and I didn't come up with this information, but people were sort of looking, I think I saw a video and read an article. There were either beer publications or even like, I think one of them was like MSNBC or something. So people are talking about this as far as like the beer business, and they were saying that breweries need to be craft beverage businesses, not just craft breweries. And it's a fascinating thing because this is what we were saying. We've seen the rise. I think the first thing to really change was probably the seltzers. I think that might have started happening 2019, 2020. Non-alc, I think probably around the same time. It was always around, but it was almost always just the macro brands doing them. And
it was awful.
It definitely was. Every time I ever tried them, I drained anything. And then I think other different things, I've seen like the hard kombucha and then all the RTDs. Like, funnily enough, I grew up in Australia, and when we were 15, we were drinking RTDs. That was what was around. Like, Jim Beam and Coke was actual thing. Like, Mum did buy them for me, Shasta Mum. But, you have 5%, you take them to a party when you're 15, you get trash, it's a good time. But that was the most convenient way because you didn't want to have a bottle because then they're all young. They all want to get a shot.
Yeah. It's tough to sneak into something, yeah.
Exactly right. Or everyone wants to take it from you, and you're a broke child, so you didn't have enough, you don't want to steal a $25 bottle of Jim Beam. So fuck, if I got 3 cans, I'm good to go. No one wants your can. So like, RTDs, to see the RTD boom, like literally close to 30 years later, is quite funny to me that's how long, I think there probably was some stuff here, but it was never popping. But either way. So
in Canada and the US, there was one product that I was just talking about this today with someone called Zima. Mm-hmm. And Zima was, I guess it was a malt liquor that had some kind of bubbles in it. I don't know. Do you remember that, Rob? You probably don't. But I
don't remember that. Like,
it was Zima. Zima.
Oh, that's the name of the product. Zima.
Yeah, it was ahead of its time, but it was, I think, what it evolved into, like what we have now with Neutral and White Claw. Okay. Zima it was cheap and yeah, you bring
There
it
was
to a
also
party.
what was the one that was? I remember I worked in the beer store when I first lived here in 2004, and it was one of those ones where it was like it looked like those popsicles that were like blue, white, and red, and it had like stripes across it or something. Was it called? It was
Oh,
called poppers or something. Was it? That sound
no,
familiar?
my kid likes that stuff. Isn't
Yeah,
that,
it
that's like,
was.
is that a vodka cooler?
I think it might have
Is
been
it?
a cooler is probably a better word. That's exactly the right word. As a like, I guess it's an
Yeah,
RTD, but it would. I remember that being the only one, and maybe they had Bacardi breezes or something back then too. Um,
yeah. There
which
was
I was
Sounds about
wine
right.
coolers were very popular in the 80s.
yes, my
Wine
mum used
coolers,
to
that was
drink them.
another.
Oh, Zima.
Yeah, they were big.
I see this
Well,
Zima.
it's funny you talk about Australia because the Australian non-alc scene is exploding. It's huge. It's way bigger than here, and you got some really interesting brands like Soba. There's one with a little brain that walks around like, and really cheeky, Aussie advertising that gets it. Because I'm watching all over the world who's doing
Of
this, and the
course.
Aussies have been doing a fantastic job of marketing it, and
Good.
I assume it tastes good. I haven't actually been able to try it, but the UK is another place. Have you heard of Mash Gang?
Mash Gang. No, that's a
Oh,
product.
write them down. Mash Gang.
Yeah,
Go
check
check them
them
out on
out.
Instagram. Holy man, they are. I guess what do you call them? Gypsy brewers.
Oh, okay, where
Yeah,
they just brew
Yeah.
it anywhere. Gotcha. Here we go.
but they collaborate
Yeah.
with everybody. Northern Monk and all these different UK brands, but
Ah,
they do some funny stuff, and it's like five tattooed dudes who are into like punk rock and hip hop and stuff, and they are hilarious. But
good for
pushing the
them.
boundaries of what you can do with non-alcoholic beer. It's all point
Okay.
0.5.
See, that's cool to
It's
hear
got
that they're
great
doing the
vibe. And again, I've
collabs.
never tried this stuff, but I follow them just because I think they're fascinating and unabashedly non-alcoholic. It's
That
just,
looks fun,
I
man.
don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mash Gang are really cool. So check
I
them
like the
out.
branding. But I like that a lot,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
kind of not surprised. Now you're saying this, I'm kind of not surprised that you're saying it about those two countries specifically, because I
Yep.
think also the UK had a big RTD kind of presence back in the day. So it may be, it's almost like I'm pulling this out of my ass right now, but it could be because they're used to doing these other types of beverages where maybe North America's a little more straight and narrow, that they got a little bit more creative and they did, dive into scenes like non-alcoholic beer when they, you just had all these
Absolutely.
macro brands that were kind of pretty pedestrian and nothing interesting. Now they people are like, oh, there are a lot of people who want to open a can and have the experience of participating in
Yeah.
social activities and don't, be around that without having to drink alcohol. And it's the perfect solution to that. And why can't it have flavor? Why can't it be fun? It's
Well, I mean, like one of the fastest growing brands that's not beer is that crazy water, death metal, or whatever it's called, or
liquid death. Liquid death. I
liquid
really like
death,
this.
and it's water. People do. I mean, the branding's pretty hilarious, and,
Yeah.
they're trying to kill your thirst or whatever. It's funny, but yeah, there's room for humor, not taking yourself so seriously. I mean, I know we're talking about RTDs and we're bouncing around a little, but just to be clear, like we're not preaching sobriety. Hey, there's a hand for the beer.
Oh, I was trying to keep it up. I
It,
forgot. I got a white shot.
that's
Keep
awesome.
getting-
Well, that was very cool. It's all about moderation or whatever the reasons you're drinking this stuff for. It's none of our business, but we're creating this brand because we want to play in the same sandbox. As I turn the can incorrectly again, there we go. As regular craft beers, we want to be part of that club because that's where we came from.
Right.
We don't want to stick something on it that would make you stand out at a party or a get together. Go, oh, what's he drinking? Like, you all right, buddy? Like, why? This
Right,
this
figure
is
that
something
stuff
that you
out.
could just enjoy. Hello, you can enjoy and
That's okay. Yeah, you are. I've got a very wide shot. It's okay. Stephen Rob, say hi.
hello. So sorry, but yeah, I think and
No, I'm
that's what
sorry.
I've noticed universally. The ones that I gravitate towards are the ones that just are treating it like any other craft beer. And to me, I think that's really the way we need to look at it. And when I stopped drinking, I started again, but obviously with a very different perspective. And this stuff, is really for me, like selfishly, it's when we started this. So like, I don't act like an ass all the time.
Like,
my wife's still married to me, and I got it just
It works.
it's worth it. So whatever you do,
just
whatever it takes.
Your beer just appeared out of the screen there, but like we just want to live in your craft beer fridge alongside all your other craft beers. I think that's kind of a really simple way to put it, and that's kind of the core of what we're trying to do. I'd say more than anything else, right? And hopefully we make that happen, which is kind of what we want to do.
That's very cool. I like that. I'm writing that out. I like that for the episode name. We want to live in your fridge.
We want to live in your fridge.
I like that a lot. That's
we
a
do.
cool name. So what we were talking, you know what? Let's crack the next one if you guys are down, and then I want to get more into sort of the topic of sort of the future, I guess, of the brewing industry and where this fits in and why it's important. For you guys have already touched on a lot of the reasons, whether it's balance in the lifestyle, which it sounds like it's worked really well for you, Steve. And to be honest, it worked a lot for me and my partner as well. I never liked this stuff, and it really, really helped me. I'm not in the industry like you guys are, but I do enough of this that I'm drinking way more than I should be. And this has really helped me to reduce that with no qualm, not like feel like I'm missing out. I actually look forward to the nights off so I can have some great non-alcoholic craft beer. I don't feel less than, that's what you just said. I want to echo that. Like, I don't feel like I'm like sacrificing.
It's not about that at all. Yeah.
No,
you shouldn't be punished, right? No. What we call it, penalty box beer. Like when the old non-alcoholic beer. If you were the designated driver and you were stuck drinking the stuff while your buddies are getting tanked, what'd you do wrong? You're trying to do the right thing and you're forced to drink this garbage. So, we're trying to change that.
Yes.
I think like one of like. It would be a really sort of happy result for me personally if we were able to, be more inclusive and bring more people to the table of craft beer, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So I really like that idea. It's not something we're actively trying to do other than sort of sample our beer, but we hope that people feel our beers are approachable. I think that's really important for us.
Yeah, I definitely would imagine. That's exactly how they feel. Speaking of approachable, I want to approach this beer right now. You like that? That was good.
That was good.
The final beer for the evening of the flagship beers, if I'm not mistaken, is Jack Pine, the West Coast IPA. Oh, actually, a pale ale. I'm sorry. I would call it. You've called it a pale ale. I would refer to it as a West Coast pale ale. Is that fair or accurate?
That is completely fair and accurate, and definitely something we're trying to do.
I love it. I love the contrast.
Yeah, it's got that. We're not hiding behind that. It's I would say from if we think about Hazy as sort of the most popular hoppy style currently. Mm-hmm. This is sort of a throwback to like early days of West Coast pale ales and IPAs. Sort of a lot of people had the introduction to craft beer through this style, and I just wanted to we just wanted to sort of respect that and hopefully subtly reintroduced it in the non-alc world. I think is a nice way to say it. And the other thing is you don't really see too much of it anymore because we're so focused like hazy pales and hazy IPAs. And that's sort of like, we're moving away from like the trend has been moving away from any of the darker malts in those styles of beers. This is not the case, and we hope to we hope people dig it.
I love it. It definitely looks different. It's definitely looks like what you would consider a West Coast IPA, kind of like an old school West Coast IPA, which I feel like I've been drinking High Life here from Cigar City. Which is just a classic.
Oh yeah,
it's
Florida.
Very similar color, which I'm loving, and
it's a great beer.
Brings you back, but that's why I appreciate about this because there's like the newer school West Coast they aren't quite as darker malts and they're a little brighter with the more tropical. I feel like you've kind of hit like at least the aesthetic of the old school, but kind of with the hops.
Like a Sierra Nevada kind of.
So, yeah, exactly.
We definitely we definitely weren't going like we definitely wanted to sort of lean citrus pine on this, right? Like citrus up front, like that nice little subtle piney backbone.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was kind of the feel to
Money.
go along with the old school, like the older school look, if you will.
Yes.
And we'll continue to sort of refine and iterate, but stay within that category, right? We're I'm a big fan. This is Jack Pine's my favorite one. So I hope other people get behind it like I have.
I think
Jack Pine is my favorite too. That's my.
I was about to
Yeah.
ask. Okay. Well, first of all, cheers to the faves.
Cheers.
Yeah. This
Rob,
is
when's your can from? What do you have a date code on yours?
Let's see.
On mine?
Rob? Yeah. The
Yeah,
bottom?
I've got this is older code for me.
Me too.
I got 10th of November.
Still holding up. Mm.
No.
So yours is good, yeah. Mine's a few months older, I realize that.
No, this is fine. Like I do one of the things I've learned to love about West Coast, because obviously, you go through the beer. Well, the kids these days getting into beer, they probably didn't do it how we did it, where you get into the whatever, you start drinking the macro fizzy stuff like lagers and stuff, and then you move through ambers and brown ales and blah blah blah. Then you go to Belgians, and then there was the obsession with the palate wrecking West Coast, and then all the trendy stuff came along. So New England's and smoothies and pastries and blah blah blah. So I feel like a lot of that's kind of come back around. I feel like this phenomenal West Coast style IPAs that, like, these days, I'm so glad that there wasn't many available for quite some time. So now I feel like it's in abundance and it's great. And I love that you guys chose to do this specific approach for a non-alc, because it's something that I drink regularly as the alcoholic beer. So I think this is just very welcome, and it makes the lineup very rounded. Which I think is important though, because it's it's appealing to a lot of different palates. You guys obviously been in this for so long that, of course, I'm not surprised that this is probably your fave. I feel like this one might be a harder sell for some of the newer drinkers, but for people who have at least been into it for
that's definitely true.
Since like 2015 and earlier, this is going to really.
Oh, I think if you're a little older, like in your 40s and up, this is a style that you're more familiar with. And it got drowned out by
nostalgic.
It'll make sense.
Nostalgic.
There's no question. Yeah,
and it just works so well.
And that's the thing. Like to your point, like it's actually really nice. You see some local craft guys kind of reimagining West Coast iterations. You know what I mean? Like the one that pops to my mind right now are the Fairweather guys. I think they put out a couple.
Kills it.
Yeah,
just
it's
dropped
great
it, like,
beer
last week.
and. Yeah, and so more power to them, man. It's nice that they're doing that. And this is our iteration. You mentioned Jai. This, like, for me, it's one of my favorite all-time beers is Two Hearted, actually, from BAOS.
Yes.
And we're not there yet, but that was the inspiration for Jack Pine for me.
That's awesome.
I love that beer. It's hard to get, obviously, up here in Ontario, but every time I ever go to Michigan, it's what I'm getting all the time.
Oh, so, yeah. I've been looking for it here, too.
I love that one. I still do, yeah. And and hopefully we'll get there. We'll get close, maybe. I don't say I ever want to get ahead of it. I just want to get close.
That's a great.
It's funny because Tank House with Mill Street was inspired by Sierra Nevada. Again, because we couldn't get it in Ontario, and that was our favorite beer. So the recipe was designed to sort of resemble that West Coast American Pale Ale.
Was that? It's been a while since I've had it. I remember at the time when I first had it, I'm like, whoa, it was the most intense thing in the world to me in 2011.
Yeah.
And that was why it was such an impactful brewery, because you're trying these styles because you're just like, oh, it's Toronto brand. Like, I'm leaving Toronto. I want to represent.
Yeah. Well, everyone was making sort of these very blonde fizzy beers, right? And we came out with something very unusual.
100% stood out for that exact reason. And was it actually? Would you consider it a West Coast IPA now? Or is it like a pale ale?
We called it an American Pale Ale, but it was modeled after Sierra Nevada, so I
makes
guess
sense.
that's
I think stylistically, American Pale is probably where Tank House lived.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Dope. Yeah, man. Class.
Yeah, it was kind of based on a '90s, late
Yeah.
'80s
Kind of style.
style of beer.
Totally.
It was, yeah, and that was a tough sell. You talk about,
Yeah, tough
selling
sell.
Bronan, like, nobody wanted that stuff initially. It was, oh, it's too bitter. It's so bitter,
Yeah.
But once it caught on, for a long time, that was the flagship beer at Mill Street until Organic
Really?
overtook it.
Killed it.
For about 6 years, that was the number one. But,
Interesting.
if you're just going to go a little more mainstream, a wider audience, yeah, the more bitter, flavorful beers will have a limited audience, which is fine.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing that just struck me now, I don't want to derail the convo again, but it's always fascinating. One thing I loved as a newer drinker in the discovery phase, I guess you would call it, was the mixer packs, so 6-packs. And every one of those 6-packs always had organic, Tank House, and what was the third one? Stock Ale. And then they would always have the 3 new ones. And I would buy that every time, even... Do
you remember the lemon tea beer?
Yes, very well. I used to get.
That was a good one.
That was a killer. That one was great. Now that Beetlejuice, I think that was the triple.
Beetlejuice, that was a strong.
That was a great beer. That beer was fantastic.
But that type of stuff, think about that, right? You're buying these things, so you've got it's hitting 2 demos. You're getting the person who just wants to drink maybe organic mainly. They're like, oh, I'm feeling adventurous, I'll try this. And then they get exposed to Tank House and Stock Ale is probably a little more palatable. Tank House is like, whoa. Then you've got these other ones that are different levels of craziness. But then you've also got someone like maybe as you're getting a bit more used to it, they're just always putting it in their face because you're always having those 3 beers there. So then it's like reminding them, hey, these are all great. These new ones are fun too, but don't forget these classics. Like, I feel like that was such an innovative approach. I love that. But I never thought about it until right this second about how much impact that had on a newer drinker, because I knew I'd be I wanted to try stuff. And I did this thing called the 365 Days of Beer, where you got to take selfies with the beer. It had to be a can, bottle, or labeled pint glass. And I was like, well, there's obviously not 300 in a year. You have to post 1 per day, but just within a year. And I'm like, well, there's not even 300 beers in the world. This is stupid, but let me give it a crack. First Canadian winter, whatever. And I did it in like 7 months. I'm up to like 7,500 now. I just kept going. And then the podcast came. But that was one of the main things. Because for me, I'm like, I buy the 6-pack. That's really cool. It was like, but if you think about that, right? Because I came into it with a exploratory vibe. I wanted to really see what's up, so I was still more than happy, because sometimes it's annoying as hell. Like, I take the picture. Back then you didn't have cameras on the front of the phone, so you had to turn it around.
You kind of turn it, and
then I had to learn. I used to put the bottle near my head because I knew where my head was in the space, so I could take a picture with that. And then I couldn't see it. I'm like, oh, it's fuzzy again? Fuck, all right, cool. And then I had to review it and blah, blah, blah. So, like, sometimes I just wanted a beer that I could just crush and not have to think about it. And I really liked those 6-packs for that reason, because I'm thinking from a marketing perspective, it reinforced the brand. And then maybe if someone came over and I was like, I got this spare beer. Hey, you want one of these? I got this Tank House. Try that. And then, anyway, I think it's just a really smart tactic.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, Steam Whistle was we always envied them because they did one thing really well. And we were like, oh man, I wish we could do that. It was just, we like to create very challenging programs. And of course the LCBO loved it because, like, what's new? What do you got? So it started off with the mix pack, and there would be, a summer and a winter one. And then of course it evolved into the shoulder packs. So in between those, you'd have the spring and the fall. And of course, fall was my favorite because you had Oktoberfest, the Marzen beer, and the pumpkin beer.
Oh, that was
right. So, and those were the shoulders. There was 3 and 3, right? And the spring 3 and 3. There was funny names like something Naughty Imp and Maple. There was a maple one. Remember Joel made with maple syrup and all kinds of shit. I mean, the guy would smoke his own malt like in this filing cabinet. I mean, Joel was always doing wild stuff.
That's awesome.
But with an eye or a commercial sensibility, his whole purpose was to make craft beer, like good quality craft beer, respectable to the macros, like to understand we can make beer as consistent with the best quality on a macro level, but it can still be creative. And that was his mission, was to really make, beer one and beer one, 10,000 taste the same, because that was the big problem, was consistency and quality in the craft scene. You can mask anything with hops, right? Uh-oh, this tastes a little funny. Dump some more crap in it, or fruit, or whatever it was. And, he went kicking and screaming into pumpkin beer. He was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And of course, what he ended up doing was this masterpiece based on his wife's pumpkin pie recipe. He deconstructed it, and, he took it. When he did lemon tea was an idea that he'd heard about. Much like, when we look at these UK beers or Australian beers, we just kind of have an idea what it might taste like. But he started experimenting with tea, and what kind of tea what do you do to remove the tannins so you don't have that tannin-y issue? And it was bergamot. Remember, it had bergamot, and it was Earl Grey tea and orange peak. I mean, with these, he would experiment in his kitchen, and his wife's freaking out while he's trying to test brew, and eventually it was this incredible, using a wheat malt base. And my God, it was so crushable. It was so delicious.
Yeah, it was a fantastic
and what about like putting nitro in a can? Sorry, I'm tooting the Mill Street thing. I don't know. I was very proud of all that stuff. But they were the first guys to do that, to put a widget in a no one had done that.
On the craft side, yeah.
Was that cobblestone?
On the craft side, yeah. Only Guinness and the big guys. We figured out how to do it, and believe me, those cans blew up. Holy. Like, we tell people to back up how we would do testers. It was just like, whoa, you wear gloves, because getting that nitro dose just right, it was hairy. Yeah. Like, the neighbors would be like, oh, what do you got there? I'm like, well, stand back and I'll show you, because I'm not sure how this is going to go down.
So put it on the back.
We took some crazy risks, and thank you. Some of the marketing stuff, it was planned, but you throw a fair bit at the wall and see what sticks. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but. And again, with this, it's the same ethic. We're just trying to have fun.
That's it.
And experiment. And Rob's doing. We have seasonal beers. We won the gold medal for the fall start. We did a
for the Marzen. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. And the Harvest Ale with orange peel.
And that's it, right? So like we're just trying to again like bring that ethos to the non-alc scene, and operate with the same principles, right? Can we maintain like that high quality, that repeatability, that sort of if you're gonna spend your hard-earned dollars on this beer, like I personally want it to be as good as the first time you tried it.
Yeah.
So like that's sort of what we're about on the technical side as well, right? So again, we're aiming to do that. We're aiming to bring that same sort of vibe to our non-alc work as well, and that personal sort of internal goals, right? Like I don't think the average customer, other than loving the taste of the beer, it would matter, but like to us it's a really big deal to continue that, both on the marketing and sales side, just being like bring the creative ideas in and see what works and try it, and not be afraid of making a mistake, in a sense. You know what I mean? It's it can be, but
it's true,
and but worth doing for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I really feel like you guys are pushing the limits with this stuff. And like the fourth beer I had, was that the one you talk about? It was the Harvest Ale, right?
Yep.
That's what Craig.
Do you have one on?
Okay. No, Craig gave it to me in, I want to say January. He came by when he was in Hamilton and just passed by, and he's like, "Here, try this. We're working with these guys."
A little bit left.
I think he might have. Yeah, this was so. That was a fun one, because I'm a big fan of the fall Oktoberfest sort of harvest type of beers as well. So it was really cool. I don't think I'd ever tried a non-alcoholic one before. So it was like, I feel, were these the only 4 that you guys have done, by the way, or have you done?
I've got a bunch of stuff.
He's got more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got stuff. I've got my beer fridge 15 feet that direction actually. I've got a Pilsner in there that's an Italian Pilsner actually that is 3 months old now, so it's prime. I just sit it and keep it cold because, again, like, ironically, the one of the funniest things about us is we spend so much virtual time together, and we don't actually spend any real time sitting down sampling. Honestly, we need to, hopefully this summer we get to do a bit more of that.
Yeah.
And so there's that. I ended my last R&D session with like a raspberry sour, again,
Nice.
classic iteration, and a stout that we're really happy with.
Oh, it's good.
So
Okay.
we've got those ideas. There's tons. We could do tons more. It's really just commercializing them that we're actually working on that too. Like from a scale point of, again, I don't want to get too technical about that because it's just sort of day-to-day business operation for us. But
Right.
it's really just how do you make that work at not necessarily the scale that we're currently at,
Mhm.
but also not the scale that I'm in my garage at. So can we make that work is kind of where we're,
Right.
excuse me, where we sit. And, as soon as we can, everyone else will know about it. So
Okay.
that's part of our plan. But so like stout, we got a pills, Italian pills. We got some sour stuff we're working on. Got some interesting ideas for more pale ales and IPAs all day long. So that's those are, I'm not limited on that at all. And then, we'll see about anything else coming up. So really it's just a matter of iteration. Like I'm a bit meticulous in terms of like, okay, guys, what are you thinking? What are you digging? What are you liking? And okay, well, I need one or two rips on my home system to get it where nice, and then see if we can move it forward from there. It's just part of the process. It takes a bit of time, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's,
All
I
right.
can't imagine. I can't imagine it being the simplest. Do you have like a midway point between full scale commercial and sort of home? Is there like a
We do. We hope we do. We think we do. We
Yeah.
we just haven't executed on that side as well. As you can imagine, just to give you to throw some plates in the air here, but like there's the making of the beer, and making, fermenting of it. There's the quality element to it. Then there's the packaging side, and then there's the distribution side. So like not all those things happen in the same spot, which makes it really, really tricky. And
Gotcha.
on the side note, less we're happy to break even, but we kind of need to break even. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
For the
play
seasonals.
there.
Yeah.
For the seasonals, right? So
Yep. Yep.
It gives you a chance to flex and show what you can do creatively, and people look forward to it.
absolutely,
They
right?
come to expect that with a craft brewery, right?
Well, that's part of the plan, right? Like we wanna have some fun that way, and we think craft beer fans will gravitate and have some fun as well. At least that's our hope.
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have, I don't know why it just hit me now, because I guess I never thought about it with the non-alcoholic brewery, but do you guys ever have goals to have some sort of physical establishment at all, or is it make more sense to continue on the contract side? Because I don't know if it doesn't exist.
We would love a little home. And, real estate's expensive, and equipment and all that. But we're certainly always looking.
Right.
If stuff comes up on the cheap, or there's used equipment, we can put together something just to be able to control the R&D portion of it, and it'll be a mix, like a hybrid of contract brewing and then making our own stuff.
I've heard it can be.
Give Rob a place to be the mad scientist, and experiment.
I think also like to have people come by too, right? We want to have friends come by and hang out and give them sort of a space to enjoy as well. It's always sort of been part of the discussion. We'll see if it ever gets there, right? And we hope it does, obviously. But I don't think, like as the Steve said, I think the contract element will be part of the plan, as well, frankly.
I like that.
We're really thrilled to our partners. We're at equals.
That's great.
In London.
Oh, at equals. Yeah. Justin's awesome. Justin's a great dude. They do some fantastic
he's
stuff.
great. I actually went to school with Justin in Edinburgh.
Oh no! Oh yeah, he did go there. I had him on a couple of years ago, and he reached out to me recently because they bought Side Launch, so we want to chat
Side
about
Launch,
that,
yeah.
which is very
That's
cool.
right.
But okay, that's awesome. I have a friend who it was just a contract brewery. He ended up purchasing another brewery and kind of merging the brands. But he was explaining to me that even if he did get a full brewery, the volume that he was doing through the LCBO and through the contractors, even he himself probably wouldn't be able to match the prices that he was getting due to the volume, because it would probably significantly cut it down. And I was like, I never thought of it like that. Like, so, some sort of like, for making business sense, since we talked about that a bunch, it does often make sense to do a nice little mix of, what you can do in-house, which would, for your seasonals and sort of like just messing around, that's perfect for that. And then obviously for the larger ones that at scale, they're just flagships and,
I'll be honest with you, like Mill Street, that's how we started as well. And it was really the model that we were going to go with. Mm-hmm. The problem was in the early 2000s, you were very restricted or limited on who you could rely on for reliable contract brewing. There weren't these places set up that was all they did, like Equals and Brunswick, and Brick still is a big contract player as well. But we were too small back then, so we were making some beer at Cool. Mill Street was originally a Cool beer.
Yeah, Cool used to do a lot of.
Used to be in Brampton.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then they eventually moved, but it was sort of this hybrid of beer made down in the distillery district, and then some of the bigger brands there. But there were issues, right? Logistics, and also we were the little guys, so you're going to make our beer this week. How about this week? And if they get in the busy season, they got to make their own beer. So it became very unreliable and inconsistent just on getting our stuff. So we had to take the plunge and get investors and expand and build our own brewery. That our beer, the first Mill Street, that equipment came out of Pyramid Brewery in Seattle. That was, Pyramid?
I do not know.
Yeah, it was one of the larger craft breweries in the West Coast. I think Pyramid, they may have gone bankrupt. I don't know what happened, but it was right across from Mariners Stadium, and all the fermenters and all that. That's where it came out of. So it was, when it showed up, I'm like, holy crap, this is a really big brewery. like the reality came crashing down. Like, we were in up to our eyeballs now in this. It was no longer like a little toy, setup. So
go hard or go home
yeah,
type thing.
It was crazy.
Okay. So the fact that you guys have been through all of that, both of you in sort of different ways, it's sort of almost like now you've sort of been there, done that, and it's like, okay, well, now we know what to do. We know, probably more importantly, what to avoid, what not to do, and how you can sort of scale this.
Yeah,
way.
I would say
for sure, but we're learning still, though.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
like
we've contracting is tough. Like, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It's tough on the Equals team, and they're fantastic, and it's tough on their customers. Like, we're doing our best to give them plenty of heads up to guarantee X, Y, and Z for us, right? It's just mutual respect back and forth. And Justin and his team do a great job.
Equals. We love you.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah.
But like, we've taken our lumps, and it's hard to take them. But we're probably we probably are we've learned so much about contract brewing in the last little bit, and I would have told you I was pretty proud of like my contract brewing knowledge, like even before this started, but it's been an education. There's no question about it, and we're better for it, but it's been bumpy. There's no question, and I don't imagine it's getting less bumpy anytime soon. It's just, this is the game, and you either want to play it or you don't.
It's very cool. It seems like it's really good timing as well. Like we were saying earlier, that the interest in this sector or segment is bigger than I've ever seen it in my time, and you guys have been in it like twice as long as I have. Excuse me. So it's going to be very cool to watch, to see how you guys grow and take it from here already. And I imagine so far it's been the response you guys have got. You guys are in a lot of places right now, from what I understand. Like a lot of, like, what does that look like? Like as far as even people accessing it, like it's pretty.
We're updating our website right now, so it'll become much more intuitive to, like the map, like where, you can pick your location and little pins will pop up. I have it alphabetized currently, so if you live in Ancaster, just for A.
I love it.
But yeah, and that list is growing daily. And for the first year, I ignored on premise, like bars, licensees, whatever you call them. I just having been through that, as you said, experience taught me like, oh, they don't pay their bills. Oh,
Of course.
It was something I had avoided. So we really focused on e-commerce, which is doing okay. That's a whole world that we're learning. They're called 3PLs, where they pack and pick and ship and all this stuff. And, we've been through the ringer on that. Grocery and all these independent retailers. So it was really our focus. Like some of our first customers were the Big Carrot on Danforth, which is a famous, one of the old school natural food stores, and butcher shops like Bespoke Butcher, and then Summerhill Market. So it tends to be people who are foodies. They love their food. They love to know what's in it. But we're also in a few Sobeys now, Longos. We're starting to get into more grocery section. Their biggest challenge is figuring out where to put us. Because if you're not in their system, we're still sort of approaching them independently. You might end up with the pop, or the energy drinks. And so people are looking for you in the wrong place. And there's going to be, I think, a level of education required for these retailers to figure out that they need to create more of a non-alcoholic beer section where people know to go to and go, I see it. I see Loblaws does a good job of it, but we're not in Loblaws. So
Yet.
Well, yeah, it's a big ticket. That is not a cheap undertaking by any stretch. But so we finally got into the bar scene, and we're finding every day we're getting unsolicited requests for our beer as word spreads, and I'm starting to call on accounts. So we just got into like Lee's Palace and the Horseshoe Tavern. Some of these places,
cool.
because people want to enjoy music, and sometimes they don't want to get hammered while they're watching a band. So here, have a good beer you can enjoy while you're watching live music. And I'm a musician. You can see I got one of my guitars there. That's my whole Strat. I got a whole bunch on the wall here, but we do fun things with our marketing with music, and we try to incorporate that. Like you'll hear jingles on our Instagram. I wrote a tune, like a Harmon's jingle. It's goofy and silly, but I've gotten all these different musicians to do their own interpretation of it. So there's kind of a hip hop one. There's like an old school R&B, Motown, ska, like reggae, rocksteady, all kinds of stuff. And it grows and grows. It's instrumental surf music. And most of them are my friends, but now I'm starting to get musicians reaching out to me going, hey, I'll do one. This guy, Eamon McGrath, who's like a punk folk singer-songwriter dude, and when he goes on stage, wherever he's at, he's got one in his hand because we threw him a few cases, because he stopped drinking. And, so this is how we're spreading the word, I'm not really sure what the question was.
No, I can't. I know it was where can people find the stuff? Where you guys at?
That's it. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's the answer. And it's interesting because I just brought the beers for the podcast because I didn't want to load the car up too much. I was trying not to bring too much stuff. And we've been trying to find non-alcoholic beers, and we've been away almost a week, and we haven't found any yet.
There's Athletic usually in all the supermarkets down there.
Not the ones we've been. And the funny thing, you were talking about that Miami, actually in Miami, Wynwood. So I don't know if there's like we went
Cigar
to a
City
Publix. Cigar City's in. They might, I think, but I haven't seen it anywhere. We got a Trader Joe's, which is the greatest supermarket on the planet, but they don't seem to have non-alcoholic beers. At least the one in Wynwood.
Really?
On Midtown.
Interesting.
We went to a Publix in Fort Lauderdale, and the way you were just describing it, we did like 3 laps of the supermarket. We went to the beer section, and then we went to like energy drinks, and we went to the juices, and it wasn't. Then we went to the coffees. Like maybe they put it with coffee, and we're like, where is it? And we kept going back. We're like, maybe we missed it. Maybe we saw like non-alcoholic Heineken and it was not that, something like that. And we just couldn't find it in that one. So we're still looking, but yeah, it's been a frustrating process as a consumer. We just want, like the nights off that we're not drinking. So we want to have goddamn non-alcoholic beer because it makes us feel good. I want to drink it. It's fun. It tastes good and whatever.
That's super interesting.
So
super interesting.
It sounds like, and look, maybe, and what we were thinking though, which is a whole other kind of topic, but maybe Florida doesn't have and maybe Cigar City does do one. Maybe I know about Athletic, which I haven't tried yet.
I think they make a Berliner Weiss. It's very low alcohol, but I'm not sure if they do a non-alc. Yeah.
A non-alc. Okay. So I think I need to do some more research or maybe go online and Google a little bit more. We've just been popping into play. We even went to Target yesterday. Didn't have it in Target. We did multiple.
I know Partake is in Target, but they're probably not in all of them.
Not in all of them. So it could just be the area we're in. It could be many factors. Maybe this particular part of the city doesn't have demand for it.
Are you like in Miami, like beach, like on the water almost, or are you inland?
No. You know Wynwood? Are you familiar with that? It's a hipster area, so it's like it's right next to Midtown. There's like this Midtown sort of whole thing, and Wynwood's the one with all the graffiti, all the murals on the walls.
Yeah. I've been there. Yes.
Yeah, so we're like 5 minutes from there. We're very close to that, just outside of it, because staying in that would be a nightmare. So there isn't many supermarkets. There's a TJ's and there's the Target and a few other places. So wherever we go, I guess the point is I'm sort of a little disappointed that I figured in the States there would be a larger thing, but it could just be in this town, in this state, it's not huge. And it makes me happier to know that at least back home, I know they have Harmon's at Durand in Hamilton, which is my favorite cafe / bottle shop there. I know. Oh, yeah.
So
Durand always has a killer beer fridge, best beer fridge I've ever seen. As far as
heard that.
It's impeccable. Yeah. He goes to all the places every week, and he's got a nice little section of non-alcoholic stuff, whether it's like sparkling waters that Bellwoods or Third Moon do, and you guys are.
Yeah, the Bellwoods one is really good too. Yeah.
The Bells did a great job. Collective did a great job. I'm starting to see. I know that Rorschach has just a single one that I don't know if they keep it regularly on, but they have. I
think they do.
So the Free Spirit. So I feel like I'm seeing a lot more happening. There's still, I think, a ways to go as far as, I would imagine at some point, which is kind of what we were talking about earlier, like every brewery should probably have some sort of non-alcoholic option, whether it's a sparkling water that's flavored or a non-alcoholic beer or something like a kombucha, something like that they can sell on premise but also sell to go to keep the brand in mind whilst satisfying. You could bring bring a friend who doesn't want to drink or doesn't drink, and they don't feel like awkward or left out that they're in a brewery environment.
It's gonna be really a really funny idea for me is the other way around. Like, we ever get a brewery off the ground, we'll have to make one alcoholic beer for the friend who does want to drink.
That is such a good point.
It's going to be the opposite.
12%, yeah.
Just a banger, just an imperial, just a barrel aged stout in the old barley wine, Mill Street barley wine barrels.
Double IPA,
awesome.
triple. Make a triple. Make a Belgian triple and non-alcoholic beer. There you go.
There's nothing less than 10%. It's either 0.5 or 10 plus. That's it. There's no.
That's it.
Yeah, we do everything extreme.
Everything extreme. God damn it! No, none of this 5% bullshit. Only half the shit. I love it,
That's
boys.
awesome.
I'm extremely impressed with everything. You guys obviously are cool as hell, but this is it's just cool. It's really cool to hear the story. I love your history in beer, and I really think that I think that's important that people know that, you go, hey man, you've been around the block, you know what's going on, you've created successful brands, both of you independently in different ways, and being able to, now wanting to come back in at a whole different, angle. And I just think that's phenomenal. And I've been drinking these beers the last few months multiple times a week. I'm loving it. I just think the branding.
I see on the Instagram. I thank you for the love there. I think you just did it just now, didn't you?
During the pod, yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, man. It's really cool. I'm very impressed, and I'm very excited to keep watching the journey. I love everything behind it, like the thinking. It's really cool to hear how it all came about and what you guys are planning to do in future. And I'm excited to see what's going on. I feel like you guys will, influence others to do the same thing to keep growing the sector, because I guess it's the same thing. Beer is that weird industry where if you have another brewery next door, it's a great thing. If you're a barber and there's another barber shop next door, you're pissed. So it's the same thing with non-alcoholic, because you can work together. And now the more of them the Loblaws has in the store, the more they understand the sector, the more they're going to, and so on and so forth. You guys are just sort of in that early mover space.
And if it's not beer, if it's all these other, mocktail type, there's a wonderful one called Sobri out of Cambridge, and they do gin and tequila, like non-alcoholic stuff. And
nice.
My wife, who's more of like, a G&T drinker, she swears it tastes like the real thing. So we do collaborations with a lot of, other non-alcoholic brands, and we're finding, that as a whole, the whole community is helping expand the awareness. But we did join this thing in the States. It's actually, there's an association now, the ABNA, the adult, the ANBA, the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association.
That's right.
Right? Yeah, that's it.
ANBA.
It's not the American, it's the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association. And they do like real full-on lobbying now, because I don't want to get into it, but in the US where you are, the rules change state to state about the definition of alcohol and shipping, and it's become quite an issue for selling the stuff, because in some states you can't even call it beer, and these are leftover rules from Prohibition, even if it's non-alcoholic. I mean, it's just, these are rules that they never examined again once they made them, and it's making life very difficult for some of our American counterparts. So, it's interesting. Canada's a little easier up here, but it's it is a growing group, and there's a lot of interesting people with innovative ideas, and we're still just perfecting how to do it. So watch the next 2-3 years, it'll keep changing. It's gonna be fun.
That's awesome. I'd love to continue. Like, let's just keep checking in, even if once a year. Or
absolutely, man. When we get new beers, we'll drop them off, and
let's keep chatting, because I think it's as.
And big thank you to Craig for hooking this up too from Craft Brand, because
such a legend. Yeah, man, I appreciate that.
Great
He's
guy.
a real advocate for good stuff, and Mike and Chris.
He's a huge fan of you. I know that. He's when I met him, he's like, "You gotta get on this show. It's the coolest show."
He's a legend. He just really promotes. He just he's in the industry, but he's just a fan of the products and stuff, and a fan of the people. And he's a talker. He just loves. He's just a great dude. Like, just spreading the word. I think needs more people like him. I think that's and you guys are working with Craft Brand, I imagine.
We are. Yeah.
Such good dudes, and they are doing incredibly innovative stuff as well. I love their whole model, and what they're doing is exceptional. So
those guys, Mike and Chris are phenomenal guys. I've known them for many years, and we're excited to work with them, because we all came from the same scene, and we've been through the trenches together.
Oh, I bet, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm seeing my camera battery flash. I want to make sure I take the screenshot for the thumbnail before. Do you want to hold up some of the cans? And we'll take a little thumbnail here.
Oh. How about one different color for each of us? That'd be cool.
Okay.
Oh, I like that. I got a greenie.
Which one you got, Rob?
I'll do yellow.
Boom. I got the teal. Let me hold that forward a bit more. Here we go. All right, you ready? Oh,
1 second.
I can do it again. Hang on. Let's do it again.
All right.
Okay.
I'm having issues. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not going to move.
Wait. No, wait. What I'm doing here, gotta wait. That's what I gotta do. Gotta remove the out parts. Okay. Here we go. Look at that, guys. Real time tech. We made it happen. I got that.
Can I stop now? Can I put it down? All right.
You can put it down. Stick around after. I'm going to wrap this up. Stick around afterwards, and we'll say goodbye there. But boys, thank you both so much for taking the time coming on the call. I know Mike couldn't make it, so big shouts to Mike. At least I got to speak to him the other day when we had a chat. So when we do it again next time, we'll make sure we have no storms. No internet outages.
Yeah.
We'll be in business.
We said nice things about him, so there you go.
Exactly. So we made up for it. Where can everybody find Harmon's online and anywhere else that you want to?
Yes, harmonsbeer.com is our website, and if you go on Instagram, it's at Harmon's Craft Beer. Same for Facebook and TikTok, and I think Twitter sort of, but yeah, Instagram. Look for some fun content. I learned animation through COVID. So when you see the dancing cans and monkeys, that's my handiwork, and I'm trying to make it interesting.
That's great, man. I love it. So guys, make sure you follow. And just to confirm, with non-alcoholic beer, people can order it online anywhere in the country completely legally. That there's no, is that correct?
Yes, it's just currently we're just shipping in Ontario. We're waiting for the weather to,
Smart.
stay above freezing, and then we'll open it up to cross Canada shipping.
That is smart because I've had many issues with the good old weather.
So, yeah, so have we.
Yeah, I bet.
Huge, big deal.
It's beautiful. So make sure you order online as well if you're in Ontario, and I imagine this will come out next week, but it shouldn't be too much longer before things get a little. I mean, in our side of the country, it's pretty good. I imagine our mates in Alberta and that are frozen hopefully should be starting to thaw out a little bit. Come May. Hopefully.
Yeah, harmonsbeer.com though. That's where you go.
Harmonsbeer.com. He's here.
.com, yes. .com, not .ca. Yes.
.com. Make sure you do it. So stick around and we'll wrap this up and we'll do it. But boys, thanks again for hanging out. This was a lot of fun. Great conversation as expected. Guys, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, and hit the notification bell so you know when the new episodes drop. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. We drop pods every Wednesday at 8 p.m. for the evening for the video, and we put the audio out in the morning. So in case you're commuting to work, you want to listen to the new episode, I'm going to be as consistent as I can while we're here in Florida. We're here for a month, so shit might happen. We might not be able to get an episode out, but at least you can hear Uncle Steve and Uncle Rob talk about non-alcoholic craft beer. Go get some. Make sure you balance your lifestyle. Take some nights off. You could have 6 Harmons. You just be pissing a lot, but it's better than getting. And with that, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers.